Well, hello chaps, and welcome back to DTH Lists. This time, me and Jamison are going to be talking about our top 10 favourite games of 2014. If you haven't watched one of these episodes before, me and Jamison each have a list, so we have 10 games each, and we are going to go backwards and forwards until we reach number 1.
And we don't know each other's lists as well.
We don't know each other's lists, which should be fun.
Number 10, the one and only Titanfall. From
Titanfall.
Long ago. God, that feels so long ago.
It does. I almost forgot it was 2014.
Yeah, so Titanfall, easily the best multiplayer game of last year. I would say of the last couple of years. Like, I haven't played multiplayer games a lot for several years now. It was the only one that held my attention, both on the PC and then again on the Xbox One when I got one over the summer. It's just fun to play, like, consistently.
And we reviewed it, so we should put a little annotation on the screen in case people want a long version of our thoughts on it. Or I should say your thoughts, because I didn't play it at the time.
Yeah, terrible.
I have played it now, so I'll say a little something afterwards.
Sure, yeah. I think the shooting's good. The traversal is phenomenal. It's fucking fast, and I like that. And the sort of building of power up to your Titan, and then your Titan gets stronger, and then your Titan's destroyed, and that sort of cycle through the multiplayer matches. It's such a great core. I think it's low on this list because it didn't have a ton of content, and they have rolled out a good amount of content over the last year. Map packs, survival mode, stuff like that. It just bums me out that there isn't more of it. It didn't hook me the way like Call of Duty did back in the 2007, 2008 area, but in terms of multiplayer games, like, nothing has held my attention. I haven't had as much fun playing a multiplayer game in years with and Titanfall. It was just a blast. Like, I don't think I had a single negative experience with Titanfall, which is pretty impressive, especially for a multiplayer game. So
nice. Yeah, there was a...
Do you have anything to say about Titanfall?
Yeah, not much, but there was a free weekend on Origin, so I downloaded it and gave it a go over the 2 days, I think it was. I think there was like a 48-hour limit on it, and it was really, really fun. I think the servers were completely flooded with newbies like me, taking advantage of the free trial, so it was really, really fun to play with rubbish players as well. So I was kind of just running around, enjoying the controls, and stomping on people. It was really easy to get used to, and I'm not really a PC shooter person. I've only had a good PC for like a bit over a year now, so FPS games on the PC are very foreign to me. So I was surprised about how quickly I was kind of getting to touch with it. It's really fluid, it plays amazing, and I actually have it on Xbox One, and by I have it, I mean I stole it off you. So I will probably give it a go later on when I have some time to burn. I think it's going to be a fun game to jump into the future if you have nothing else to fill that void, which should have been Master Chief Collection, but we've already talked about that, so let's move past that.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the best like cores of a game, even though there wasn't a lot of content. Like, when they have a proper sequel where they can focus properly on it, and like the development of this was, was sort of rickety because they were like suing Activision or whatever with all the Infinity Ward shenanigans. I think if they take a couple of years and really flesh everything out, like Titanfall 2 could be incredible. I think Titanfall currently is really, really good, and it's just like the core of it is so strong. I hope they do more with it in the future, because I will be there day one.
I can see a 2 coming out.
Yeah, sold pretty well. So. Your number 10.
My number 10 is Destiny.
Ah.
Yeah. So
Destiny.
So we probably don't have
Never
to talk
heard
about
of it.
So we probably don't have to talk about that much. We did a pretty lengthy review on it, and we actually have a second review planned for, I think,
sometime in March, whenever the next DLC is out.
Yeah, we're going to do a 6-month later review, because it's supposed to be an MMO in its core. Well, it's supposed to be MMO-ish. So I think a game like Destiny can only properly be reviewed once it has stood the test of time, or as long as we played it for a few months. So we will come back and talk about Destiny and some of the DLC packs. But my opinion has changed a little bit on Destiny, because when we reviewed it, I was quite far behind you. I'd literally just finished the campaign, and I was kind of only just getting into the end game stuff, where you're just kind of grinding for different armor and light and stuff, and I hadn't played the raids. And doing the raids with our little group has been really, really fun. Some of the funnest multiplayer experiences I've gone through in a while. And I'm really looking forward to when we run Crota, and I will be investing in all the DLC packs just so that we can do the raids. The raids are so, so good. And the worst thing about Destiny is that they force you to grind for days so you can even play them. They are so cruel, because the raids are fantastic, and I look forward to the DLCs just exclusively for the raids. I couldn't care less about gear or anything like that, or strikes, because I'm not really the biggest Destiny player. I've only sunk, I think, come up to 3 days on it. But the raids itself is enough to put it on number 10 on my list for this year.
Cool. Yeah, I think it'll come up again, but like the sort of like Titanfall, almost like the core of Destiny is really good. Like the shooting
so good,
is so good. I would say it's the best first-person shooter of last year, like just in terms of the pointing and the shooting of guns. And it looks so good, and it sounds so good, and yeah, the raids are definitely the high point of that game. Yeah,
really fun. Your number 9.
My number 9 is Dragon Age Inquisition.
Ah, nice. We haven't actually talked about that, so this would be interesting.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it. Sort of October, I think, when it came out, but it's a huge game, so obviously we didn't get around to reviewing it in any timely manner, and we probably never will. I think, well, it's lower on this list because I'm only like a third of the way through it. You know, it's like an 80-hour game or something ridiculous, and I'm only 18 or 20 hours in or something. I think it's like it is like classic BioWare high-quality writing is what makes that game what it is. You know, the Mass Effect at its best was great writing. Dragon Age Inquisition, for now, seems to be the best thing in it is the writing. There's really good characters. There's, you know, this sort of weird, dry, slightly aggressive sense of humor that the main character has sometimes. Like, you know, he's a bit of a jerk at times, and it's just full of really good characters. It looks really nice. It sounds great. There's some really good music in it. There have been some really cool and surprising main story missions. I think there's only like 6 or 8 main story missions. Oh. But you have to, they're like 2 hours long, and you have to work up to them. But the 4, I think, main story missions I've done so far have all been totally unique, new areas, new setups, some really surprising, cool stuff. And it makes me want to go back and see Origins. Because I tried to play Origins, and it
might be a bit dated.
It might be a bit dated. It looks, you know, it definitely hasn't aged visually very well, I don't think. But I just also had no fucking idea what was going on because it was a fantasy world, and it's all like a blur after a certain point. But now that I know, you know, now that I understand a bit of the world and why people like it, mainly because of the writing, I'd imagine, I think it's a really good game, but it's not, even if I had finished it and loved it, I don't think it would even be still in the top 5 because the combat is very simple. You just hold down right trigger and manage your cooldowns of your abilities, and the side content is kind of terrible in most parts. It's just like fetch quests, you know, gather 10 herbs or whatever. Getting around the world, like traversing it, isn't great, but it's flawed, definitely, but it is the core. The thing that I like most about BioWare games is their writing, and Dragon Age 2 and Mass Effect 3 definitely had some writing issues, I'd say, and so it's really encouraging to see BioWare putting out another high-quality product, especially because they're working on another Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So that it makes me hopeful for the future, because it's a pretty solid game.
Yeah, it's definitely on my to-play list of 2015 to catch up on.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that people should play.
Yeah, I'll probably play it slowly over this next year. Okay. So my number 9, this might be the one surprise of the list, which you probably weren't expecting, but my number 9 is Goat Simulator.
Goat Simulator, that's fantastic.
I am not kidding. So first of all, I'm going to struggle to put it into words of why I enjoyed Goat Simulator so much. But I think one of the main reasons is it really is really dumb. Yeah. But I also really like kind of what it did in terms of game design. I think 2014 was the year where companies thought they could make crappy, buggy games and get away with it. hashtag all survival games that ever come out in Steam Early Access.
Yeah.
But I think Coffee Stain Studios came around and made Goat Simulator, and it was buggy, and it broke all the time you fell through the map, but it just amplified how funny it was to play. And I think I really want game developers to take a look at Goat Simulator in the future to see how you can design a silly game, and how it's not perfect, and how it can still be a hilarious experience. And also, they've done an incredible job of supporting it.
Yeah.
They've released 2... I was going to say updates, but they're basically expansions. They're basically bigger than the original game. The newest one was Goat Simulator MMO, which took me a good 5 hours to explore everything in it. And the writing is hilarious. Everything in the game is just class A. I don't think I've laughed so much in one video game for a long time, and I just like what it does, and I like the studio, and I want to see what they did next. And also, Coffee Stain Studio is really weird, and I'm excited about their future, because they did another game called...
They did the Sanctum games or something, right?
And they also did a story about my uncle, which couldn't be more different from Goat Simulator. It's so bizarre what they are creating.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Good job putting that up. What can Destiny learn from Goat Simulator? That's going to be our next video.
I love Goat Simulator. I hope they release more content in the future. And I still go back every now and then because it has a pretty good community on the Steam Workshop. They keep creating stupid mods for it that just make it even more hilarious to play. So I hope Coffee Stain Studios continues to add stuff to Goat Sim because I love it.
I need to go play more of it. I remember, I played like an hour like everybody else did, and I thought it was pretty beautiful. I'll definitely go and look at it more because there needs to be more things like that out there, I think. And
also one specific thing in Goat Simulator that I love, and that is one of my favorite things in gaming. GTA 5 did this really well, is you will discover things which are so incredible and so fleshed out, but you know that you may have never found it ever. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
That's a weird sentence to say, but like you'll do something very specific in Goat Simulator. Like you'll just headbutt a specific statue in a house, and then suddenly you'll be transported to outer space, and there's aliens everywhere. You're like, Jesus Christ! I may have never found this, and this is incredible. So there's one small aspect of Goat Simulator. It's all in the detail. I love it.
Wonderful. This list is already so good. 2014 already better than 2013. Come on, guys. Goat Simulator.
Yeah, stunning.
Fantastic. Okay, so my number 8 is Kentucky Route Zero, or Kentucky Route Zero, depending on how you speak English.
Interesting.
So this game is weird. It's episodic. There are only 3 of 5 episodes released. Episode 1 came out in like January of 2012. Episode 2 came out, or of 2013, excuse me. Episode 2 came out in May of 2013, and then episode 3 came out in May of 2014. So it counts. Fuck you.
It counts.
It is so weird. I think an easy Okay, so a really good David Lynch movie can take you from this really strange, familiar, honest scene, and then the next moment it be really unsettling and uncomfortable, because essentially, the best David Lynch stuff is he's trying to make it like a dream, and that's really hard to do because dreams are weird. And Kentucky Route Zero is basically exactly that in game form. I think it's pretty much the only game I've ever played where it feels like a dream. It goes from being strange and bizarre and beautiful and familiar into unsettling, and then back into comfortable again. And it just, there is a story going through it, but it's not really about that. It's just one scene and then a next scene. It's comprised of acts and scenes. It's like Act 3, Scene 3, and then it has the name of the scene. And they do really cool stuff with the writing. Like, you are constantly choosing dialogue for pretty much everyone. Like, they're sort of the main character of Conway, but you'll pick his dialogue, and then you'll pick, the person he's talking to, their dialogue sometimes.
Oh, interesting.
Or you'll be talking on the phone, and you'll be picking what the guy says back to you on the phone.
Weird.
And so it's less about what's happening in the story, and more about, the writing is almost determining who you are. Like, I feel like at the end, it might just spit out this massive, psychological report about all the answers I gave, almost, But it's like, there's a really good song halfway through and it lets you pick the words, and it's like, I wish I'd met you sooner, or I wish I'd never met you, like things like that. And it's like, which do you choose? It says a lot about you, and it's the only thing out there like it. And I think it looks incredible. It sounds amazing. It does so many things so well that pretty much nothing else out there does. And dreamlike things can be done very poorly, and like real proper done sort of dreamlike entertainment is something I really enjoy, and something that's few and far between, and I think people should really give it a look. It's each episode's like an hour or two at the most.
I am intrigued.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool game. And I just sort of like had a revelation about it, like after I had finished Act 3. I was like, I understand what it's all about now, like why, like it just, everything sort of clicked, and I realized what it was doing. And I'm probably going to go replay the 3 acts now again, and in anticipation for the next act. Who knows when that'll be? Could be this year, could be next year. Maybe it'll be on my list for the next 3 years. I don't know.
Okay. I would put that on my catch-up list of 2015, because that sounds interesting. All right, on to my number 8. Okay, so my number 8 is The Evil Within. The Evil Within, of course, it's quite a simple game, to be honest with you. It was trying to be a survival horror game, and it was a really good survival horror game. It reminds me exactly of Resident Evil. It's got great gunplay. It's tense all the time. The combat is fun right to the end, and it's a long game. I think it took me 14 and a half hours to complete, and I died about 50 times in the game. It's a pretty challenging game. There are some frustrating parts, but I think one of the highlights is each scenario. There is a lot of options when it comes to combat. You get a pretty extensive amount of weapons. My favourite addition was the crossbow. In the game, you have a crossbow and it has like 6 or 7 different bolts. That might be wrong because I haven't played it in a few weeks. So I just finished it. But like you have a frostbolt option, a firebolt, an electric bolt, a stun bolt, a harpoon bolt, an exploding bolt, and throughout the game, you basically just pick up parts. So you basically have a choice of what bolt you want to make. So there's a lot of experimentation. Every fight plays out differently, and it has really, really good pacing. It's always changing the environment. There's boss fights all the time, and it's adding new enemies, and it just plays really well. It's a really, really good survival game, and if anyone likes that genre or that type of stuff, I would give it a go. It's got some really disgusting, gruesome art style type designs in it as well. Yeah. And I can see it being a franchise because it's got some villains in it which are very memorable, like the safe head guy that you see on like all the posters on the cover. He's a great boss fight. Really, really intense, really, really difficult. So I can imagine seeing a lot of him at like Comic-Con, and I can see Evil Within being a franchise, and I would play more. It's a good game. I don't feel like many people played it. I didn't really hear much about it. If you like Resident Evil and survival horror games, give it a go. It's a really good one.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't play it because I don't really like Resident Evil and survival horror games, and I know that.
Yeah, that's fair then.
Yeah. So number 7 is Jazzpunk.
Jazzpunk! I love this game.
There were a lot of really good funny games this year. I think Jazzpunk is the funniest thing I have ever played. It satisfies this part of my sense of humor that just like nothing ever does. The Airplane is a great comparison because it's just non sequitur, randomness, absurdity constantly. And Jazzpunk, like 3 hours start to finish, everything. I think it's constantly funny right to the very end. Everything feels like it comes from the same crazy mind, which it does because it was like made by one guy. And it was so funny. I don't really know what else to say. Like it was just a delight. It was so dumb. There's so much dumb stuff in it, and I just had a big dumb smile on my face the entire time while playing it. And I look forward to going back to it in 6 months or so when I've forgotten some things and just playing it again because it what a delight. Like, just came out of nowhere and was incredible. Yeah.
It's basically a pure comedy game.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really get many of them. There isn't much gameplay except for kind of walk around
and
picking up stuff
interacting,
and interacting with stuff. It's a game that is designed to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And it does it very, very effectively.
Oh, man. What a great game.
I completely forgot about it. I'm like looking at my list. I'm like, no. If I would have been number 10 if not, but I think Destiny. I don't know. It's a
better
great game.
than Jazzpunk.
I don't know. It's a great game.
It is.
Good
it's
choice.
So good.
Good choice.
Man, I love it.
Okay, so on to my number 7. My number 7 is Hearthstone. I only started playing it about a month ago, and I think when Master Chief Collection kind of failed to be my go-to time killer game, I needed to find something else, and for a while I didn't know what to kind of play, and then I was just on a Twitch stream around Christmas. Someone was doing a Christmas stream for charity, and they were playing Hearthstone, and I was watching, and I think I put about an hour into watching, and by the end of the stream, I had kind of adapted myself to the rules, and I was like watching, I was like, oh man, if I was you, I would do this instead, and I was like, okay, I gotta go give this a go, and I am completely addicted to it. I like strategy games. No, I don't.
No, you don't.
I don't like strategy games.
Yeah.
I like games that involve you being smart.
Right.
So I guess I should say puzzle games, but it doesn't feel like a puzzle game. I don't know. I'm struggling to put this into words. I guess every kind of situation you come across in the game is kind of a puzzle. You kind of have to figure out what you're going to do. But it basically comes down to arithmetic and numbers and how to most efficiently use the numbers that you have on the board. But my only complaint with it at the moment is I haven't invested any real money into it at the moment, so I have basically the basic cards, which is still, if in the right hands, a competent amount of cards. You can do a lot with them. But the ranking system, I get matched up with a lot of people with really strong decks, because they've obviously put some money into it, or more time, I don't know. But I am getting stomped on a little bit, and it's one of those games you can't say, oh, it's because their cards are better, because the way it's designed is you can still win with basic cards. That's what makes it good, and it makes it even more satisfying. I feel like I've got pretty good at it. But like, there's times where they pull out these cards and they're like, oh my god, I'm dead.
Right.
So it's getting to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe I should put some money into it, and I'm trying my best not to. But it is a card collecting game, so
put some money into it.
I might end up putting some money.
What's
But I'm really enjoying
$2?
it. It's the most satisfying game I've played in a long time. When you win, or when you play a smart move, or where you outthink your opponent's strategy, it is super rewarding and really addicting. And I'm already starting to get like too much into it. I watch loads of it on YouTube, and I'm looking up like specific decks.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a problem quickly, and I don't care, and I'm going to let it take over my life, and I can't wait.
Sounds like
It's going to be great, and I'm excited to get better at it in 2015. And every time I open a pack of cards, I'm excited, because my cards are pretty shit right now. So I'm basically in the honeymoon phase of it, and I look forward to playing more of it. It's really fun, and I'm trying to get you addicted to it as well.
I'm definitely going to see what it's all about and give it some time at the very least. Yeah. I need to see. I've liked Blizzard games, fairly consistently. StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, their last two, I loved them quite a bit. I know it's very different, but yeah, I'm definitely going to give it time and see what's up with it. Yeah.
It looks great as well. It's super polished.
Yeah, of course.
It's a really nice looking game.
They always are, yeah.
It's my first Blizzard game I've ever played.
Really?
Believe it or not. Yep. I've never been interested in anything they've had to offer. Don't think they're a bad company. They do what they do well.
Yeah.
But it's the first Blizz game I've played, and they do what they do really well.
Yes, they do. They make very high quality games, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so my number 6 is South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Yeah.
South Park, up until I would say for 60% of the year, was literally at the number 1 spot.
Yeah, so
because it was just it's such a singular, I haven't touched it since I beat it in February of last year, but I didn't really feel like I needed to. It's just such a singular, almost flawless experience. I thought it was fun to play. Once I bumped the difficulty up to hard about halfway through, I
should have done that.
I thought it was pretty fun to play. If you don't do the side stuff, it's a really tight 12-hour campaign. It looks perfect, actually perfect. I'm not a diehard South Park fan, but I've seen enough South Park to know, the famous episodes. I've seen the movie. I think when South Park is at its best, it's amazing and important. Like, we need South Park to exist to be crude and gross because there's and the stick of truth is crude and gross and hilarious and shocking at times, let's say.
Really.
It's just a fantastic game, and it sort of defied expectations because it was in development for ages. It was announced years ago, and it was delayed, and it was delayed, and it was delayed, and it came out and was fantastic. And
it was a surprise.
It was the first big surprise of 2014, and phenomenal. Like I said, we're now number 6 through number 1. I could put any of these at my number 1 spot. And I think South Park is a hell of a game, and I don't know. I don't think they're ever going to do any DLC or anything for it, but that's fine. Like, it was just, it's just a great game for, like, in everything about it. I would say it's some of the best South Park writing as well. It's just like one. It's just one really, really, really long, good, like, great episode. And I know there's tons of fan stuff in there that I don't get, but I think even without that, it's great. Like, if you've ever appreciated South Park and found it funny, I think it's pretty hilarious. And it gets funnier as it goes on. I think, the last sort of 6 hours are just ridiculous. Well done to them. That's all. Yeah.
I agree with pretty much everything you say. I'm a big South Park fan. I've seen every episode, and pretty much everything you said was correct. I was very surprised by how much it looked like the show.
Yeah.
I know the show doesn't even have, great animation.
No, it looks like shit. That's the best thing about it.
But they did such a good job of transitioning it over to the game. And the gameplay is more entertaining than I expected it to be, since it's just kind of a simple turn-based little fighting game. But the writing is what makes it good, and all the references and the fan service. For a fan of South Park like me, it was an incredible
Going
game.
to the Kingdom of Canada was one of the funniest and most surprising things I've ever seen. It was
I'm jealous.
amazing.
I wanted them to go to England.
I was so funny. God. There's so few, there's not enough Canadian jokes, and I appreciate anything that makes fun of Canada, and they did, and it was great. Your number 6?
My number 6 is Shadow of Mordor. There you go. We reviewed it, so we will put an annotation on the screen if you would like to hear our extensive thoughts on it. But what made Shadow of Mordor so good was not only was it a fun and good open world game, but they did something very unique, which was the Nemesis AI system, which I'd never seen done in a video game before. And it made it feel like a pretty unique and futuristic experience, and you never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was like the first really next-gen thing that you're like, oh, this is brilliant, and more things should do something similar. It's a really smart way of, like, keeping you coming back if you want to. Because it's basically infinitely variable, and I think that's really, really smart. We've reviewed it. It's a great game, I would say.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid game.
It's the best Assassin's Creed game ever, I'd say, and it makes up for the lack of Batman as well in 2014. And it takes a lot from those two games, but it does it just as well in the case of Batman and better than in the case of Assassin's Creed. So
yeah, exactly. And just the Nemesis system alone is an impressive feat. It's really, really intelligent. And it kind of makes me excited for the future of AI in video games.
Yeah. It's one of the many games on my list, especially the top 5, that just sort of came out of nowhere, or I was like in the back of my head hoping it would be good, and it turned out so much better than I expected.
Yeah, I wasn't excited about it at all. But that's kind of the whole Lord of the Rings franchise when it comes to video games.
Yeah.
I just can't get excited about them.
It's so hit or miss, yeah. Okay, my number 5, The Halfway Point. Where else would I put it?
I thought that was the game.
What?
The halfway point. Is that the game?
No. The halfway point of this list. Number 5 is in the middle.
I was like, I haven't even heard of this game.
My number 5 is...
Okay. I know what it is.
It's Destiny.
I
don't know where else to put it. Putting it at number 10 would be lying to myself. Putting it at number 1 would make me feel bad inside. Because it is... And we've talked a lot about it, and we will talk about it a lot more in the future, but it is like easily the biggest disappointment of last year. Yet simultaneously, I have played more of it than any other game that last year. I have thought about it more than any other game last year, and I don't know why.
It's got you, man.
I don't know why, but it has got its grips in me, and you know, it's incredibly fun to play. I'll give it that. And I don't know, Destiny's just such a weird game. I've played so much of it. I'm definitely going, you know, back into the sort of valley of not playing it a whole lot for the next couple, you know, probably the next month or so leading up to the next DLC, and then I'll get back into it again. But yeah, I'm sort of becoming like I'm 32 now, so it's like, well, I could collect all the exotic weapons. It's like, even though I'm literally accomplishing nothing, and fuck, I don't know.
We were talking about this yesterday. Bungie have done an incredible job of psychologically gripping you into playing the game, even though it has so many flaws.
Yep. They're a bunch of assholes. Well. Let's just say that. Yeah. We'll get into it again in the future. Spend another 45 minutes talking about it. But yeah, Destiny, number 5. Because I don't know where else to put it.
Okay. So my number 5 is Alien Isolation. What was that noise?
That was an acknowledgement.
So we haven't talked about this yet.
No.
I can't remember why we didn't review it. I think we were just busy or lazy. One of the two. But yeah, we haven't talked about this at all, and it was my most anticipated game of 2014.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that list,
it was somewhere on my list as well. I think it was like number 8 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary as I expected it to be, but it was very, very tense all the way through. Even when you got competent at fighting the alien, the game did a pretty consistent job of putting you on edge, and it had a lot of incredible qualities about it. The in-game environment was really, really awesome. I loved the lo-fi elements of it, and I remember hearing like a director's commentary, and I think one of the things they said was, if the prop couldn't have been created in the 80s, then they weren't going to model it and put it in the game.
Yeah,
so everything in the game could have been created for the actual film set of Alien, which I think is really cool. I love the attention to detail. It has really, really good pacing until like the last 2 chapters. I thought it was really, really consistent, and then they did drag it on for just like the last hour and a half.
Yeah, that's about what I was
gutted about, because it really, really could have been maybe even higher on my list, but like the last kind of, I don't know, it left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth right at the end, just because I was getting a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's an incredible fan service to the first Alien game. It's tense all the way through. They do mix up the combat and the enemies a significant amount to keep it interesting, and it's just a great game, and it's sold like crazy.
Yeah, so they just said they sold 1 million copies or something, which is
it's nuts.
I think that's pretty respectable.
Alien Isolation 2 coming out. Also, it was the scariest game I've ever played on the Oculus Rift ever.
Oh, fuck.
Jesus Christ.
I'm so glad I don't have that anymore, because I would have played it and probably killed myself or something.
But Alien Isolation, it was a great game. It wasn't as scary as I wanted, but it was tense all the way through, and it was pretty polished, and it looked nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, my number 4, we talked about it, Shadow of Mordor. Again, yeah, I don't think I need to say much. It's great, it's fun to play. Nemesis is super smart. I also wrote down, I love how it sounds. I realized that when I booted it up the other day. I was like, man, there's a lot of cool sounding stuff in this game. Yeah, it's just such a neat game. I think I'm gonna dedicate some time to it again to go and really start messing with some of the systems now that it's quiet. You know, it's sort of quiet for another couple of months. I want to mess with the Nemesis system more, because I haven't gone back to it in a while. But yeah,
I agree. I might do the same. Okay, my number 4 is Infamous Second Son.
Really? Okay, cool.
It is, yeah. I love the Infamous series. I'm a big fan of the franchise, and the reason Infamous Second Son is so high up on my list was because it felt like my first true next-gen experience.
Yes.
There's a lot of elements in the game that made it feel like the next generation of gaming, and a lot of them were novelty-wise, like the shaking of the controller for spray cans and the noise came out of the controller, but that was all new for me.
And the visuals.
Yeah, oh my god, it looks so good. But a lot of it was my first experience on a next generation console, And I'm just biased because I absolutely love Infamous. I liked the characters, and the writing was pretty good.
Yeah.
The world was fun to explore, and it looked fantastic.
God, did it ever. So yeah, Infamous is one of the games that didn't get on my list, but I loved it. Like, it's not... I wouldn't say it's quite as good as 2, which is the other one I've played.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really very much the same for me, where it was like, this is the first game that I feel good about having purchased the PlayStation 4 to play, because I thought it was a ton of fun to play, and it just looked fucking crazy a year ago. And it still looks great, but like last March, I mean, Jesus Christ, like the number of times I just stopped and looked at stuff, like it was just... Yeah, I platinumed that game. It was the first game I ever completed all the trophies for on a PlayStation, because I just wanted to play it all. And, you know, that DLC they put out was kind of not very good, but whatever. The main game I enjoyed a ton, yeah. And I feel bad about not having it on my list, so I'm glad you put it on here, so we get to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 3 is Wolfenstein, The New Order.
Ah, wow. High up.
Yes. Wolfenstein is just, it's great. I think there's pretty much nothing in it that I don't like. It's a really, it combines like modern and old school first-person shooter mechanics, and it results in this really new, fresh feeling first-person shooter. You know, you've got map and health pickups and ammo pickups and collectibles and then, you know, on top of the dual wielding and crazy sliding around, and it was really fun to play. And it's got I really like games where you can play it one way and then it switches and you can just seamlessly go between the two. So there's lots of stealth in Wolfenstein. I think the stealth is all really simple and enjoyable. And if you fuck something up, then it's shooting time, everything, you know, guns blazing. And I really like being able to just go from stealth to guns blazing to stealth again, quickly and easily. I like being able to switch between those two, and they did them both really well. So it was a ton of fun to play, and I think its biggest accomplishment was the writing, and sort of the characters and the delivery of the cutscenes and the dialogue. This is by the guys that did, or some of the guys that did, the Chronicles, the Escape from Butcher Bay and The Darkness back in like 2007 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool games, full of awesome writing and characters, and The New Order is, I think all the characters are excellent, and the main guy has lots of internal monologuing that a lot of people didn't like, but I really did, because everyone in that game is exhausted of war, and like they do such a good job of capturing that at all times. Like, everyone is just tired, and it was just such a surprise. Like, Wolfenstein is like the first game I ever remember playing, Wolf 3D, like back in the 90s when I was super young. And you know, the modern Wolfenstein games have never been great, but they've not been terrible. And so this just sort of came out and was phenomenal. I think it's one of the best first-person shooter campaigns of the last several years. Maybe that's hyping it too much, I'm not sure. Because I think it was sort of, you know, hit or miss with some people, but it hit hard for me, and I think it's a hell of a game, and I would love to. I can't wait to see what they do next. Maybe, you know, maybe another Wolfenstein, who knows? But just a damn good first-person shooter campaign. We don't get a lot of good story-driven first-person shooters anymore, you know, with a quality story and good characters and good cutscenes and all that. So, yeah, great game. I think I platinumed that as well on the PS4. It's like one of the 2 games I platinumed.
I think that will probably be the next game I catch up on.
Yeah, it's really good.
Prioritize Wolfenstein.
I would say don't go in expecting it to be the greatest game ever made, and maybe it'll sort of recreate the sort of spot I was at when I first played it, because I didn't expect it to be good, and it turned out that I really liked it. So, yeah, it's a great game. Just fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, look forward to playing it. My number 3 is South Park: The Stick of Truth. I pretty much agree with everything you said when you put it on your list, but I am a slightly bigger fan of South Park, so that's probably the only reason it's been stacked up higher, because of all the fan service and the references. Everyone loves references, man. You feel so special when you understand a reference, and it was stuffed full of them. Great writing, fun all the way through, and yeah, I hope they make more of them.
Yeah. So number 2, and like I've said, numbers 1 through 6 I could put any of these anywhere, basically. I think they're all pretty much equal in terms of how much I enjoyed them. My number 2 is Sunset Overdrive, which is shocking, honestly. Because I hoped it would be good. I didn't expect it to be good, and it was the first game that made me, or not the first game, but it made me feel really good about owning an Xbox One. And the first couple hours I was kind of like, this seems fine. And then once you sort of get past the 5-hour mark or so, it just gets consistently better and better. And we reviewed it. We both really liked it. You can click through to watch it in more detail. But I think the traversal is really smart and really fun and sort of puzzly, and it keeps you involved the entire time. And I think, the shooting's pretty basic, but it's combined with the traversal pretty enjoyable and all the silly weapons. It looks great. It's really funny. It's a good mix of like Saints Row stupidity and genuinely clever originality. I don't know. It's a great game, I think, and it's great to see Insomniac making a really good game again, because they have had a rough couple of years, And
it is so good. I would probably say that Sunset Overdrive is, I'd say, the most fun game to play this year when it comes to gameplay wise. I thought the traversal was probably my favorite out of any game I've ever played. I'm saying that truly. I thought traveling around the world was just endlessly entertaining, and I thought they tweaked it to perfection, and it just felt so good. It was so satisfying. I found it laugh out loud funny all the way through. The characters are all good. It hits all the nails on the head, and that's why it's my number 2 spot as well.
Oh, look at that. The stars align.
I don't know what your number 1 is.
I don't know what your number 1 is either. I'm so confused. Okay, so my number 1, my game of the year, even though I could have put Sunset or Wolfenstein there as well, I think.
Oh, I know what it is.
My favorite game of the year was the most original experience I had of the year, and that was Alien Isolation.
Wow!
I would never in a million years have thought that a year ago I would be putting technically a horror game, a survival horror game, in my number 1 spot. But here we are. I think it looks amazing, obviously. I think it sounds... It's the most, interesting sounding game I've ever played, because I've never played a game where listening to things was so important. The reliance and all the information you get from sound in that game is unlike anything I've played before, with the alien, coming and going from being on the ground and into the vents, and the Worker Joes or whatever they're called. I thought just that alone was an incredible achievement, I think, in the sound. But also, like you said, it's not necessarily scary, but it is really tense, and it's like this primal fear that games don't really ever achieve, because normally the AI walks in a very specific pattern, and you just are like, well, fuck you, I'm smarter than this dumb programmer that programmed this AI, I'm just going to sneak through here. Whereas this, the alien was constantly unpredictable, and it felt like it was hunting you, which is, back to the primal fear. It's like, I don't ever remember feeling like I've been genuinely hunted by something in a game, and it felt like that throughout. And, a lot of people, or some people, had huge problems with that and died hundreds of times and lost save progress and, just had frustrating experiences. And I think those are all totally valid. I just never experienced that. I went super slow through everything. The first alien encounter took me 2.5 hours to get through because I was moving so slow. And I died less than a dozen times probably in the 16 hours.
Pretty impressive.
I thought the save system, while it's an artificial way to add tension, I think it was effective because I was constantly playing smart about moving from one save spot to the next, and I never lost any progress, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That's fine. It was just, when it came down to what's my number 1 game of the year, I just thought, what game stood out to me as providing the most original experience, and it was Alien. I think it did everything it set out to do pretty much perfectly, even though I think it is flawed. I just didn't really encounter many of those flaws. And so it resulted in me personally having an incredible time with it. And I totally agree the last hour or so isn't very good and drags and it ends poorly. But that didn't undo the 15 hours prior that were, consistently tense and beautiful and sounding terrifying and heart pumping the entire time. So, yeah, well done to them, because I don't like horror games. I don't like being scared in things, and they managed. I just couldn't get it out of my head. I kept coming back to it even after playing for an hour and like nearly passing out because it was so intense at times. So yeah, that's my number one game of the year.
Wow.
It's very different from last year in that, like, I wouldn't call Alien like an undeniable classic, but I had just one hell of a time with it. So
one thing I forgot to compliment Alien on was just the AI. Just like Shadow of Mordor, it was one thing that made it really stand out. And just knowing that the alien might be there, or it might not be there, and you have no idea and there's no pattern, it just increased the tension. And it was also really fun to talk to other people, because I know a lot of other people were playing at the same time and they were having problems in some areas and they were getting killed over and over. And I was like, I didn't even know the alien was in this building. I never saw the alien.
That was a really cool thing when I went to go, and when I would replay a section, like when I was showing someone, I would just I would just be walking in this area, because when I played it through my first time, I thought the alien wasn't there, and then all of a sudden he jumps out of the fucking ceiling, and it makes like the Nemesis system. I think the alien AI is so unpredictable that it makes replaying it actually worthwhile, because it'll be different. And every time I've reloaded an area to replay, it's played out differently, which is surprising. I thought the alien was really scripted, sort of at times, but yeah. Anyways, that's what a weird, cool thing to have at the number one spot, I guess.
Yeah, unexpected.
Yeah,
I knew you liked it, but didn't know it'd be number one. Cool. All right, on to the final. My number
really
one.
Like no shit, Sherlock. As soon as you say it.
2014 is Valiant Hearts.
Really? Oh yeah, right. Valiant Hearts
of 2014, and I think the main reason is because no game has ever kind of affected me and emotionally moved me like Valiant Hearts.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I'm quite a cold-hearted bastard sometimes. Like, there'll be movies and games that just tear people into tears, and I'm just like, meh.
Yeah.
I just don't really... I get sad, but I don't really get watery-eyed very often, and I haven't been able to get Valiant Hearts out of my head. But it's not just the story. The art style is incredible. In its core, it's a puzzle game, and I really liked the puzzles. I really liked the story. I liked the campaign. I read all the notes in a game, and a lot of you don't know me personally, but if I read stuff in a game, I really like the game.
Yeah.
I was even reading the facts about the war, and the fact that it was based on kind of events from World War I made it much harder hitting. It really kind of affected me, and it's an incredible package, and I'm not going to say too much because
I haven't
finished
it yet,
so. And a lot of people haven't finished it, and hopefully me putting a number one doesn't hype it up too much, because I think one of the reasons it's so good is because I wasn't expecting anything, and a lot of times our enjoyment in a game can be really, really affected by hype and expectation, which is probably...
That was 2014 in a summary, in one sentence there, yeah.
So I think for that reason, hopefully me putting a number one hasn't jeopardized that for you.
No.
Because that is a part of it. But it's a fantastic package, and it nearly destroyed my soul, and I will never forget it. It's incredible.
So I will complete it. I definitely want to see it through to completion. I've played...
Yeah.
I booted it up last night thinking I must be sort of, more than halfway through. No, I haven't even finished the first chapter yet. So what the fuck's up with that? I played like 3 hours, and there's one chapter completed of 5 or something.
It's quite long. It's quite long. Yeah.
Personally, I don't like the puzzles at all.
Wait, they get really creative and funny.
I haven't had any fun
charming.
playing the puzzles. Just because I every time I look at something, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I go to the internet and it's like, you do this, and I'm like, how would I what?
Really? I didn't have to look up anything.
Yeah, which, again, puzzles are like super subjective. So
yeah, true.
I haven't enjoyed the puzzles, but I think the accomplishments it has in visuals, I think the music is so perfect.
It's so charming and quirky as well.
And kind of heartbreaking as well. Like when you're reading, the little bits of information, it's a really somber piece of music. But like you said, with the collectibles, I am like desperately looking for all those collectibles to learn more about the war, and they managed to like take World War I, which has sort of been forgotten by most people for whatever reason. I feel like it's not covered in history here at all. And they managed to like straddle the line between like somber and sad, and also fun and quirky.
Yeah,
all the little human sound effects and the and like the little dog and all the little, it's quirky and fun and light, but then also it's like they managed to make you realize like, World War I wasn't very nice. And I think that's a huge accomplishment, and I really, really do look forward to finishing it. I sort of have like heard, mild what happens at the end, and I want to see that to completion. So
they did a really, really good job of making you connected to each individual character.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure how far you are into the game, but you play as nearly all the characters. And they split off, and then you get excited when the characters get reunited. And they just do a great job of making you attached. And I hope you don't know too much about the ending, because
I know a tiny
thought it
bit,
was.
I
thought it was an amazing ending. I wasn't expecting it. I thought, someone's just gonna die in the war, and it really, really took me by surprise. And it's so good though. It's a great.
I definitely am going to complete it. That's like the number one on my must complete list. I think the main narrator as well is just, he's got such a sad voice, and it's so perfect.
Yeah, great voice.
I'm pretty sure he's a Canadian, because I heard his voice on a Canadian Power commercial like a month ago, advertising for like Alberta Oil or something, and I was like, this is really weird, because it's that same voice. Yeah, that was like one of the coolest things to see. That the first trailer I ever saw for it was at E3, and then like a week later it was out, and everyone was, holy shit, this game is really good. And that's something I have to commend Ubisoft for, is like they put out, they have these huge franchises, and sometimes they put out real garbage like Assassin's Creed, Unity, but because they're so big, they're able to make little games. Rayman, God love them, and Child of Light, I thought was a really enjoyable game, even though it's way too long and kind of flawed. And same with Valiant Hearts, like good on them for making and supporting the development of little games as well.
Amen. Well said.
So
okay, so before we wrap up, shall we say like honorable mentions? Any that you wanted to put on your list?
Yes,
okay, go ahead.
Where is it? Call of Duty, I thought was really, really good this year. I thought Call of Duty was the best Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2 years ago, and that it actually got me like excited and feeling good about Call of Duty again, which is weird. And then the one game that was on my list right up until the other day when I finished Kentucky Route Zero was Forza Horizon 2, which is on there because I don't ever really like racing games, and it's the most I've enjoyed a racing game since Burnout Paradise. So I thought it's a great game, and it deserves. I wish it's weird every year, like. I sort of wish it was top 15 because it would be easier. But,
it would be so much
which is
easier.
weird because I thought sort of, initially I thought 2014 was sort of a wash, but then I looked back and, like I said at the beginning, there were a lot of quality games this year, just not anything too incredible, but still lots of good games. So, how about you? Anything?
Not as many. Jazzpunk, you reminded me of Jazzpunk when we were going through the list. Wow, I can't believe I forgot about that. That was a Class A comedy game. I really like Far Cry 4.
Yeah.
I know you didn't have as much fun, but I really like the Far Cry franchise, and I'm still playing it. I'm still having a really good time.
So am I, I'm sort of poking at it,
And crap, there was one more. Oh, The Walking Dead Season 2.
Right.
Which really good, and it's kind of made me want to try out the Tales of the Borderlands and Game of Thrones. Because it was better than Season 1, and I thought it was better than A Wolf Among Us. Is that it?
The Wolf Among Us,
Yeah, it was my favourite Telltale series so far. And I'm looking forward to playing more Telltale stuff, even though they're bringing out so much I can barely keep up with it.
Yeah, unbelievable. Holy shit. Minecraft coming soon.
Oh, God, yeah. But that's it. That wraps up our top 10 of 2014. That was fun.
Yeah,
That
it
was
always
fun.
is.
Good lists.
Yeah.
Good lists. So, yep. Leave any comments if you disagree with our list or what you thought were
Post
your
your
top
list.
games. Yeah, of 2014. And until then, we might do another list this year, or you will see us next year for 2015.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Thanks for watching, guys.